Commander Zara watched the human female approach the sacred vault with growing unease. The ancient armor of the Keltheran gods had remained untouched for 3,000 cycles, yet this small, pale creature named Lisa walked toward it with casual confidence. The human delegation had arrived on Kelthos Prime just 7 solar rotations ago. Their ship bore scars from countless battles, and their crew moved with the practiced efficiency of seasoned warriors. But Lisa stood out even among these impressive humans. She was smaller than most, barely reaching Zara's shoulder, yet something in her green eyes made veteran Keltheran soldiers step aside. Only our gods may wear this armor, Zara had declared when the humans first requested access to their most sacred relic. The armor was said to be forged from the bones of dead stars and blessed by beings who had transcended physical form. No mortal had ever donned it and lived. Yet here stood Lisa, her hand hovering over the crystalline barrier that protected the ancient suit. The energy field hummed with power that could vaporize most beings on contact, but the human showed no fear. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore nothing but standard ship clothing. Yet she radiated an otherworldly calm. The armor itself was magnificent, even Zara had to admit. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, it gleamed with an inner light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Intricate patterns covered every surface, telling the story of the Keltheran people's rise from primitive tribes to galactic empire. The helmet was carved to resemble their ancient god of war, complete with fearsome mandibles and glowing eye sockets. "Your gods must have been quite tall," Lisa observed, her voice carrying clearly across the vast chamber. Her tone was conversational, as if discussing the weather rather than approaching a relic that had driven lesser beings to madness, merely by looking upon it. They were not bound by physical limitations like mortals, Zara replied stiffly. The High Priestess Kelia stood beside her, radiating disapproval at the humans' casual attitude toward their most sacred artifact. Lisa nodded thoughtfully and reached out to touch the barrier. The energy field recognized her approach and began to shift colors from deep blue to warning amber. Several Keltheran guards tensed their weapons, humming to readiness. "I should mention something," Lisa said, still not removing her hand from the barrier. "My people have encountered armor like this before. On a world called Zarion 7 in the Andromeda sector. The beings there claimed it was forged by gods too." "Impossible," Kelia hissed. "The armor of the gods is unique, blessed by beings beyond mortal understanding." Lisa smiled, a expression that somehow managed to be both gentle and predatory simultaneously. "That is what the Zirionites said too, until we found the manufacturing facility on Zirion 9. Complete with assembly instructions and a very detailed warranty card, the barrier began to pulse more rapidly, now responding to some quality in Lisa that the Keltherans could not perceive. The amber shifted to green, then to colors that had no names in any known language. "Your gods were not gods," Zara Lisa continued, her voice still maddeningly calm. "They were the architects, an ancient race that seeded armor throughout this galaxy as tests. They wanted to see which species would prove worthy of inheriting their legacy. This is blasphemy." Kelia shrieked, but her voice cracked with sudden uncertainty. The barrier dissolved entirely at Lisa's touch, and she stepped forward without hesitation. The armor seemed to sense her approach, its inner light pulsing brighter. Several smaller pieces detached themselves and began floating toward the human woman. Lisa caught each piece with practiced ease, beginning to don the armor with movements that spoke of long familiarity. The boots sealed around her legs with soft hisses of escaping air. The breastplate molded itself to her torso, adjusting its size to fit her smaller human frame. How Zara whispered the word, almost inaudible. "My species passed the architect's final test 2 centuries ago," Lisa replied as the gauntlets attached themselves to her hands with metallic clicks. "We inherited 13 suits of this armor, along with the responsibility of finding other worthy species. The architects left us detailed records of every world they visited, including yours." The helmet was the last piece to attach, and as it sealed over Lisa, her voice took on a deeper, more resonant quality. The armor had fully activated now, its patterns shifting and flowing like living things. "We have been watching your people for 50 years. Lisa continued. The armor's sensors allowed her to perceive the Keltherans in ways no unaugmented being could. She could see their fear, their awe, and beneath it all, their desperate hope. You have shown courage, wisdom, and honor in your expansion across the stars. You treat conquered peoples with respect, and your warriors fight with nobility even in defeat. The armor began to glow brighter, and Lisa rose several centimeters off the ground, supported by gravitic fields that bent space itself around her. She was no longer just a human woman, but something far more magnificent and terrible. The architects decreed that worthy species should be offered a choice. Lisa announced, her voice echoing strangely in the vast chamber. Join the greater community of tested races and share in technologies beyond your current understanding, or remain as you are with no shame, for that choice carries its own honor. Zara found her voice at last struggling to speak past the awe that threatened to overwhelm her. And if we choose to join, then your people will be given armor of your own, Lisa replied. 3 suits initially, with more to follow as you prove ready. Each suit will be bonded to your finest warriors, and through them, you will learn to take your place among the star-spanning civilizations. The armor began to power down its glow, fading to more manageable levels, but Lisa remained floating, her presence filling the chamber like a living star. She had become something between mortal and divine, a bridge between what the Keltherans were and what they might become. Keelia fell to her knees, her religious certainty shattered and rebuilt in the span of moments. Our gods, she whispered, were preparing you for this moment. Lisa confirmed gently. The myths they left behind, the values they instilled, the armor they placed here as a test, all of it was designed to shape your people into something worthy of this inheritance. Zara straightened her military bearing, reasserting itself even in the face of this revelation. What must we do to prove ourselves? Worthy Lisa smiled within the helmet, and for a moment she was just a human woman again, despite the godlike armor that surrounded her. That, commander, is the easy part. You already have